Welcome back. We are back with another episode of We the People. You know, for the past couple of weeks, we've been digging pretty deep into this political thing, but tonight is going to be, I guess I can say this afternoon, maybe it's not tonight yet. Today is going to be a real powerful show. I got some really, I keep saying really, I sound like Trump a little bit, really important stuff. But look, can you turn my mic up just a little bit? We're going to get into some deep topics today. We're going to talk about some things that's pretty much current that's happening with the police. One of our issues today is going to be dealing with why the police are in the situation that they're in and what is the government doing about it. So before I get started, I want to introduce the people that I have on the show today. I got a big group of folks today. We got Destiny, who is actually Skyping in. Probably can't see her yet, but she'll be on the scene in a second. Destiny's actually Skyping. There she is. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Look, I want you to talk a little bit about, just real briefly, about how we met. Of course, we know how you met, but some of the things you involved when you're here in the DFW area just a couple weeks ago.
So I heard a little bit, but from what I heard, I was just over there a couple weeks ago. And we did the podcast with Greg. Was talking about the protesting and things like that. I protested for the Dallas protest as well as the Fort Worth protest, as well as when I came back to San Antonio. What else did you ask?
No, that was good. Just wanted to do a quick intro so people know who's actually in the room. To my right, I have a very talented comedian, and she is a host of one of the shows here on the network. Shawnee B, what's up, lady?
Hello, Kenny. It'd be cool to girl, food to girl.
See, there you go. Cool to girl, food to girl.
Yes, sir.
Shawnee's been with us almost 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
About 2 years.
Yeah, two and a possible.
Two and a possible. Yeah, and she's been delivering dynamic shows. The show's been on pause since the coronavirus pandemic, but I'm sure she'll be back when she's ready. I'm glad you came in the studio today.
That was shade.
Hey, I'm just saying. I was glad to get you out the house and back into the studio. I know it's a little rusty right now, but I'm sure everything will come back. You've been doing this for about 7 years now, right?
About 8.
About 8, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And I got a newcomer to the network. Got Aya. Did I pronounce your name right?
That is correct.
Oh, I got it right. Okay, finally. I usually get names wrong. So Aya is a politically savvy guy. He spent some time in my hometown, Washington, D.C., which, I had to give him props for that one. But I'm glad you're here, man.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, growing up in the DMV, spent some time in Alaska.
Okay.
Background on research administration, and I'm currently working on a project educating voters on how the job is.
That sounds like a good thing. It's a good thing. Okay.
I'm looking forward.
Okay. And on the opposite end of the table, got the alpha male, sports enthusiast, the host of one of the powerful shows on this network, Beyond the Noise, introduce my brother, Greg Walls.
Man, I'm happy to be here. Every time you ask me to come, I just stop by to make sure I can show my face and act like I got something important to say. So,
no, you got, dude. You've been hitting points every time you come on the show, man. Even with your show, man. He has a really powerful show, so I recommend people to check it out at 7 p.m. on Monday nights here at KMWi-Media. It's a really good show, and I think the show coming up tomorrow, you're going to have some people from the Black Panther movement.
Well, we'll have an activist come on in here tomorrow. Barnett Person's going to be with me, and I met Barnett actually at PE over there at Performance Experience. So he's done a little work with my sister over there in China.
Oh wow!
Yeah, okay. So he'll be on the show. Tomorrow's going to be good. I get a chance to talk to my guys.
I'm going to try to sit on the sidelines on that one, so I ain't got an engineer, so I can focus on the show. I'm going to see if Lady Peter don't mind pushing the buttons up there. Okay, well look, let's get right to the topic. I want to talk about what just happened. On June 8th, 2020, the Judiciary Committee from the Congress actually signed a bill. Actually, they're still debating on it, but they actually signed a bill called the Justice in Policing Act. This is a pretty powerful thing. Some of the things, now I had a chance to watch some of the debates they had on it on C-SPAN, I think it was on the 10th. It was pretty interesting. I'm just going to lay down some of the things that they have, which is in this bill, and I think it's not all of them, but things that I can remember. Accountability in policing, of course. No chokeholds or strangleholds. They're eliminating that. Police should give announcements before firing a weapon. That's something we're going to probably get into dealing with what happened in Atlanta from on Friday evening. Police background should be made public.
No doubt.
Yeah. Eliminating restrictions in lawsuits against police departments, because there are certain limitations in some jurisdictions where the family members of those victims can't file.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's some things that's blocking, it takes a long time before they get to the courtroom, so they're trying to speed that process. This is gonna be federal things. Eliminating no-knock warrants, that's in this bill.
Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, yeah, because of that. And I think they call it the Breonna Taylor bill. There's another piece of that. Independent prosecutions of police officers. Now, what they're saying is because usually those departments have their own people that's doing the investigations.
Mm-hmm.
They want to eliminate the, did my sound just go out? It didn't?
There's a lot of snow.
Okay.
Background noise.
Probably Shawnee.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're gonna fix
There
that.
we
Is that done? Okay, perfect.
that's it.
See,
Now,
it's from pushing buttons all the time.
there we
And standardized use of force.
Mm-hmm.
So the use of force is an issue. It's a major issue because we saw that in the Greg Floyd situation.
Mhm.
You know, the use of force is critical. I mean, is it even necessary? So I want to get into this with you guys. Based on some of the things that I've just read off, I'm gonna start with you, Aya. What do you think about that? What do you think about this new bill?
It's a start.
Okay.
Now, obviously, when it comes to legislation, everything's a prisoner of the moment.
Right.
So, in dwelling on the chokeholds,
Right.
obviously George Floyd wasn't a chokehold, but it was
His was a stranglehold.
stranglehold.
Right.
Yes. Murder.
Right.
And I feel that everything they put on the table in a bipartisan way,
Right.
it will pass.
Okay, we all know how a bill becomes law.
Yes.
It has to go through the whole process. Judiciary Committee comes up with the bill,
Uh,
they vote on it, then it goes to the full House.
Yes.
And from there it goes to the Senate for a final vote in the Senate, and then it goes to the President.
A lot of people didn't know that.
Oh.
What you just did, a lot
Yeah.
of people didn't. I'm glad you ran
Oh,
that down.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know for a fact a lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah, so how Bill, I mean, when I was a kid, we all looked
Schoolhouse
at
I'm
Rock.
only a bill
Schoolhouse.
sitting in cap. I knew it, but
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know.
No, I think it's
So
important
to
to
run
know.
that down is important.
So, Destiny, you still there with us?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you think about this new bill? The things that I read on that bill? What do you think? 'Cause I know you were right front and center, having conversations with some of the cops. What do you think?
I think it's a publicity stunt for the Democrats to seem like they care. But that's not trying to sound pessimistic, but it's like I thought the chokehold had been banned.
Actually, it was banned in New York, and it was banned in some jurisdictions, but it wasn't a federal case back then,
Actually, in
Yeah.
New York, it was passed this week.
was it?
Yeah. Even past the 6 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just this week.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Destiny.
No, I was just saying, wow, that was just passed in New York. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
but this right here would make it a federal offense. So it's a little bit different,
Yeah.
which I think is important. Now, I think once it goes through the process, I think it's up to the states to decide if they want to adopt it. I don't know. I'm not sure about how that works. Are you familiar with how that process works? If there's a step in the process where it's required that the states have to adapt it, or?
Well, once it becomes law, the states have to interpret what that really means.
Okay.
So,
So I mean, they can sue Congress on this, or I mean?
well, as far as these bills concerned, they can't. The states cannot sue on these laws.
Right.
But when the law is finally, finalized,
Right.
it is up to the states to figure out the federal describes. I mean, they have to figure out between the lines how this law is, how it works.
Right. Right.
So there would be discussion between federal law enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
the DOJ,
Right.
the FBI, and the state law enforcement
Okay.
with the police chiefs and all that.
Okay. So, Shawnee,
Yes.
based on this new bill, what are your thoughts on that?
It took so long to come into effect.
Yeah.
I can't even say I'm excited. It's slow. It's slow motion.
Yeah.
It's tardy for me.
Yeah.
every man for himself. So
well, it's a new beginning. I mean, would you say? I mean, at least now. I mean, it might have taken a long time, but at least now they're talking seriously about it.
I'm happy they're starting to
Right.
see what will happen if they didn't. But
right. But normally, doesn't have to something really big have to happen for something to get to this type of national attention? I mean, we know that the George Floyd. This is something now. Destiny, I know this is something you can chime in on as well. These particular protests, this is different than any other protest. Way different from the ones that happened to Trayvon Martin, what happened to the other killings back in 2014 and 2015. This one seems to be different from all of those. I mean, there's an influx of many, many people involved, including whites. I mean, I saw whites in those, but it seemed like there were white folks deeply in these protests. What did you see out there when you were out there, Destiny?
Protesting, like protest-wise, like
yes, the type of people, the demonstrators.
I saw people demonstrating, like when we were talking, or the cops on the side demonstrating the whole knee on the neck, or we had white allies with signs yelling at the police, like these are our people too.
Right.
I saw, and I also once again I saw like a lot of emotion. People are upset, people are hurt and angry with what's going on, and then it comes to topple with the cops abusing their authority, in my opinion, with pushing us, telling us to move, or we can't be here, and it kind of like makes the emotion rise even more to where people finally, when we were trying to peacefully protest,
right.
Then it becomes where people are saying riots, but I still haven't really much seen a riot, but other than, honestly, I forgot to mention this in the other when we had spoke, but they had planted, I would say allegedly, but it's like they planted an old cop car in the parking lot for them to set on fire. You know what I'm saying? So it I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of hard.
I get it. So now you mentioned, let's go back to something you mentioned a few minutes ago, that you think is a Democratic ploy for publicity. Is that what you believe in this new bill? Okay.
I do.
And you said that because it's finally happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So is that the only reason why you think it's a Democratic ploy?
Yes, but I think now everybody, like with the whole, I think kind of everybody's kind of jumping on this now, like, oh, we support you, and not only just with the Democrats, businesses, and saying it, and I think it is a ploy. That's like, okay, but I don't think that it's just a front.
Okay.
But,
okay. Greg. Greg's been pretty outspoken now. I gotta just jump into this real quick. A couple weeks ago, when Destiny was on his show, which I thought was a great show, we had what we call after hours talk. After the show was over, I wish I could have recorded that one. But the conversation got a little deep, got a little intense. So, Greg, what are your thoughts based on what Destiny just mentioned, and what are your thoughts based on what I told you about the bill?
Well, I want to make sure I get some clarity on the question. When you ask what are my thoughts, my thoughts of this passing, my thoughts of the step in the right direction, like
both.
Okay, so I'm looking at this without emotional eyes, right? So what I'm going to say is, I think it is a major step in the right direction because it adjusts the way the police force was designed.
Right.
So I think before any of us make statements of the now, we have to have an understanding of the past and what the actions or the symbolism was. So police have been policing the way the force was designed.
Right.
It was designed like this.
Right.
It was designed to enforce and to take people who are property and put them back in a property state.
Right.
And if anybody has any questions, I can send you some sites or some stuff you can look up. That's part one. Part two, this thing is not about one incident. It is the way that there is no justice in policing.
Right.
So this is what I think. I think it's a major step in the way policing is going to change, number one. Number two, it adjusts the way bad officers act.
Right.
So we have to stop treating this thing like an individual situation. So for example, there are absolutely some amazing cops out there.
Yeah.
There are also some terrible ones.
Right.
But let's liken it to any other. I know some bad football teams with some really good players.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so that's why you got to change the way they play. That's
Right.
basically what's happening. So if we're changing or adjusting the way that the police have to police, maybe they will begin to serve and protect all.
Right.
Because it's, if we base this thing in justice and not just the act,
Right.
then it's better for everybody, and then we stop clouding the situation with talks of racism, because racists are racist. You're
Right.
not gonna keep a racist from not being racist.
Right.
But what you can do, you can adjust his actions, you
Exactly.
can deter his actions and consequences.
Right.
So I think that these are gonna lead to real consequences, and that's simply because I know how
Right.
policing has been done in the past. So I think if we move away from whether it's gonna pass or it's gonna make things better,
Right.
it's going to keep bad people from doing terrible things.
Or if anything, it's going to hold them accountable for doing the bad things. And you
Justice.
said that.
Because if we stay in the space of justice,
Right.
then all of it begins to make some sense.
Right. Just adjust the mic.
Nice.
Okay. So, okay. I think of anything, because the first thing they said in here was accountability in policing. So it's not just going to be the actual officer committing the crime, right, against the citizen. It's going to also be the police officers and witnesses, because their job is still to protect and
You got to
serve.
be a good teammate.
And the other thing is the department that allows it or covers it up. So all these things are in this bill. So, and Destiny, I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying, but I think this is a good positive step forward. I'm not gonna say it's a Democratic ploy. I wouldn't say a Democratic ploy, but I understand where you're coming from. We gotta take some steps, because what would be the contrary? If we don't do this, say it is a Democratic ploy, then maybe something good can come out of it. If this is a bad thing, if this is something that people just doing to try to get some publicity, well, maybe some good can come out of this.
I also think if we compartmentalize the situations as they are.
Right.
So you have protesters who are actually protesting for certain things.
Right.
Then you have rioters who are rioting.
Right.
And you have authority
Right.
who is policing
Right.
the protesters. So maybe they're policing the wrong people.
Hmm.
So putting these things in place
Right.
allows them to be held accountable to the people that they police.
Right.
Also, the moment we make things about the overarching objective, the Republicans, the Democrats, the liberals, the conservatives, the Black Lives Matter group
Right.
versus we overarch it, there's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
There's nothing we can do as an individual the moment it becomes the other group, because you can't hold a group of people accountable for one's action.
Right.
However, if you hold one accountable to his action, the group will pay attention.
I mean, you set a precedent. You set a precedent for change. Destiny, you had something to say?
Oh no, yes, I was listening, but also, Greg, you had said something about serve and protect or whatever, and I don't know about y'all, but I was underneath the impression until yesterday, I thought that police were here to serve and protect its citizens, us and the people. And then I had looked up, watching one of my old classmates, and I'm looking at it now, but the actual oath, have y'all ever seen what the oath says? They're not here, it's not to serve and protect us, it's to serve and protect the Constitution of the United States.
Right.
And then something that really stuck out to me was against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So it's kind of vague. What makes somebody an enemy domestic? Is it that because you don't agree with the Constitution? Is it that you want it to be amended? So I feel like even kind of starting there, what is the oath here?
That's an excellent statement, but I'll take it a little further so you have some clarity on that. That makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. But you have to remember, when that Constitution was written,
it wasn't for us.
Black people weren't people. Again,
right.
And that is a historical fact in evidence. No, before that we were property. That's
right.
Why human trafficking didn't exist. The slave
right.
trade was a trade of property. Mm-hmm. So how can you write a constitution for someone who is not a human being within your land?
Well, okay, kind of getting off topic a little bit.
That's the topic. That's where we need to live.
Well, what I'm saying is, what you're speaking of, I agree with you. That is what blacks were discussed. Blacks were discussed as a moral issue within the Constitution. Okay. So it came up when those fathers were sitting there debating this thing up in Philadelphia. It did come up.
It came up. It didn't come to fruition.
It was an afterthought you know, when the Constitution is being written, because they knew at some
So
point we went further
let
than
me
the lives
ask you a
that we
question.
discussed.
Let me ask you a question. On what planet does it make sense for human beings to have to fight to be treated like civilians? And we glorify that. The civil rights, we had to fight to be treated like human beings. Think about what I'm saying. So when we see the laws changing because the world says, oh my God, he killed a man on national TV. That's not right. That could be my friend, my cousin.
Right.
And now the laws are being changed for all human beings in this great state.
Right.
Or in this land. So before we go into the now,
right,
we got to understand what actually is. That's why I don't subscribe to politics. I don't subscribe to religion. I subscribe.
You sound like you're about to run.
To my experiences,
right,
and to historical data.
Right.
If you look it up, even in the Three-Fifths Compromise, we were a representation of a vote, hence the Electoral College. We weren't actually people. So when we actually started fighting to become people, 60, 70 years ago, they started adjusting laws. But the supreme beings who held property, they didn't adjust them.
Well, okay, well the Constitution.
So now so when we talk about the Constitution and the flag, and you got to remember it was written for people, not property.
Well, the Constitution itself was written to be a living document. So that means it could change over time.
It's adjustable. It's fluid.
It's always being adjusted. This new thing that's coming to fruition now, this thing that they're trying to push now, is part of that adjustment. Yeah, what didn't exist is going to now exist. Okay, because there was no accountability in all these things. Certain states did pick it up. Certain cities picked it up. You said New York just picked it up. I know that back during Giuliani, when he was mayor, there was an issue about chokeholds. So maybe it expired. I don't know. Why they just resigned? Well, they had to resign it now because you have to. And I think every state that has police departments, at least large enough police departments, will adapt the same policy. So I want to jump over to another large district. Something just happened Friday with a young man. Now, I saw two different versions of the videos. I saw the video from the police that you just showed me. Hey, thanks for sharing that with me. I saw the video today of the actual body cam, and then I saw the one that was on TV the past couple of days of the wide shot of the spectators actually taking it. I didn't see all that happened before. All I saw was, you know, the first one, I saw him running away, you know, with the taser in his hand, shooting back at the cops, right? This one actually showed that there was some compliance with this guy, with the police officer, with the breathalyzer and everything else. There was actual conversation. He could have been drunk. He didn't appear drunk. You know, he looked a little like I'm a little frustrated, you guys in front of me, and even the cops at the time didn't seem overly hostile. So when he said, hey, well, I'm gonna take you in, which he was within his right to lock him up, because he did see him behind the wheel and he drove for that little couple feet to the parking space.
So it was a viable stop.
It was a viable stop.
Yep.
So now, did somebody say that the cops were suspended, or were they just
One
administrative?
was fired and one was
fired
administratively. Yeah.
Already?
Yeah, from what I just saw.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, I think, because I don't want to get into the point, and I don't mean to cut you guys off, but if we get into the minutia of was it right or wrong,
right?
It's wrong. To kill a person without
that's
real justification
that's
is wrong.
The issue, and that goes right into this bill.
But we know what's right and wrong.
Right.
The reason these bills are being rewritten is for justice, because now that black kid could be anybody. Right. That's the way they're writing the laws. We're human beings now, and I'm not trying to overarch that statement. I'm saying, name another person that had to fight to be treated like a civilian, because they just tried to exterminate the Jews.
Right.
Right.
Well, that was Hitler. Yeah.
And when it came to Native Americans, they were seen as people, and they tried to exterminate. We were never people. So if we live there and see the change, then we get away from overarching ideas. Right. Any bill that says, all right, you can't choke me out,
right,
I'm with that.
Well, I would say on that situation, I watched 3 different views of it. I watched the people that were in the car filming it, then the body cam,
I saw first,
and it looks like a sky cam from Wendy's. I couldn't really tell.
Right.
You know, now these laws are cute, But the only reason why they're coming into effect is because we made them uncomfortable where they are.
Good.
Because back in the day, we would mess up our own neighborhood.
Right.
But we're going to, excuse me, not because I'm not out there, but they're going to the Targets. They're burning down Starbucks. They're burning down things that they feel comfortable.
Who is?
The
protesters.
protesters.
No, see,
No.
They're going to locations.
The rioters are.
Well, the rioters.
It's important to say that. It's
the rioters.
Because if you have a protester that is on the line right now, and I know she ain't set fire to nothing.
No,
You see
but
what
they're
I'm saying?
marching in those areas. The peaceful protesters are marching in those areas where those people are saying, "Oh, this didn't happen in my neighborhood." So now it's making them uncomfortable. The looters later at night, yeah, they're burning it down. You know, that's what they do. But now these laws are coming into effect because people are stop spending their dollars certain places. They're putting pressure on their feet, and this is on camera. If none of these shootings were on camera, we wouldn't be doing half of this stuff because it would just be another murder.
So we're trying to say, okay, help me understand. So what you're saying is that these changes are only coming about because of publicity they got?
It's more pressure
Yeah.
for them to make laws in place.
But isn't that why you do it?
I mean, right now,
That's why you should do it.
Really?
because-
there's still unsolved cases right now that
Honey.
nobody's touching on. They closed the case.
'Cause you
Nobody
You
investigated.
can't do everything in a day.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, because we saw what happened to George Floyd live and this gentleman that died on Friday,
Right.
it's now making it see that we're not being arrested or anything the same way that other races are. I just saw a
Well, that's
video with
true.
a white man.
That is true.
He tased the officer,
Right.
and he's still alive. He's 22 years old. They pulled up and he had a gun, and he took the taser from the police
Right.
officer. He's in jail.
Right.
So what was the difference between the Wendy's situation,
Well,
private property versus
let me
public?
go back to
Let me
go back to
Justice. If I can get away with doing it, I'm going to continue to do it. So I don't care how these laws come about.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. So
yeah, I don't care about how.
like
but
we watch Rodney King get
Right.
beat to sleep. We have been watching these videos for years, but here's what actually happened. The world sat down and saw a man get murdered.
Right.
And in that murder, people have called and texted and emailed after we say, you know what, this is not uncommon. Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear about that. What can I do to make it better?
Right.
Because it became real.
Well, let me add to that and say it only became because people had time on their hands.
It was real.
Right.
We had nothing to
okay,
do.
but see, okay, so we're going way out now. Now I get it.
Okay.
I totally get it. So say this was a divine thing. So we know, I had this conversation just yesterday. There's a lot of evil in the world. There's hateful things in the world. And God would take this evil thing and find some good in it. So the good thing about it, that everybody's home. This bad thing just happened, so we're going to bring all this attention to this bad thing. And God is saying, I'm going to intervene. I'm going to put my hand in it. I'm going to change your hearts, or open your hearts to what really happened, so maybe I can get some good out of this. Maybe we can really put racism on the table.
Or it's not maybe. Or it's just logic. I'm watching a man get
Right.
killed.
Right.
I don't want that to happen to anybody I
Right.
know. We have to do something about this. And that comes from understanding that, see, we can't blame white people today
No.
for what white people did before, but we
Right.
can inform them
We
and
can-
make
we
sure
can-
it don't
we can hold
happen
them accountable
again.
today.
Hold them accountable, and then let's get paid back for
Right.
that. And payback doesn't have to be negative. What I'm trying to
You
say,
said payback?
yeah,
Okay.
it's a lot of years of injustice.
So how
that-
would you pay them back?
No,
I mean,
we get paid back.
So you're saying reparations?
That works too. But I'm every other.
It ain't happening.
That's a whole different
that's
conversation.
fine.
Okay, go ahead.
What
Keep
I'm
up
saying
alive.
is, I don't want to focus on the small things until we pull
Right.
up the root. The root is now finally black males may get justice, because if a white man is swinging a sword and he gets arrested, he's probably going to go to jail.
See,
and
I
it's
don't
going to
see
be
this.
just.
Well, let me back up, because I want to ask Destiny a question. Destiny, when you were out there protesting, what was your
Yes.
purpose of protesting?
I wanted to add on to the people to show that we wanted justice for George Floyd, what was going on, and we wanted still making noise. And at the time, they still didn't say anything about the other 3 officers. So I just wanted to go out and just make my voice heard, because I felt
Okay.
like just staying home for me, it wasn't good enough, for me,
So
And I was one.
I'm sorry. So when you
No.
were, because I think you mentioned that you were actually having some dialogue with some of the cops that were standing there at their posts. Is that correct?
Mhm. Correct.
So what were you looking to get from them? Or were you saying this to represent all cops? You say, I'm talking to this cop, you represent all cops.
Yeah,
No.
because they are a representation of all cops. Really, it's asking like, do you think this is okay? Like, do
Okay.
you agree with this? And honestly, of course, we wasn't getting any answers. Of course, just like stone face, but kind of like, I guess, trying to see like how do you feel about it? Like,
Right.
is it, you know?
And you probably understood why he didn't respond.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and I think after the show we talked about this, and one of the things we were talking to you about, and got a little heated, but I thought it was necessary. Not to put you down or anything like that. It was just that there was some passion surrounding that particular issue. But one of the things we talked about was now what? We had the protest, but what's the next step? And you actually admitted that you didn't know what to do next. But this bill pretty much is a next step. It's not the only next step. There's several steps that got to take place, but this right here comes from the top of the government. So this right here, and I'm going back to what you said, you mentioned that this was probably a stunt for the Democrats, but this is what you need. You need legislation because, even though we can't change the hearts and minds of people, the law can change their behavior. So what we need right now is to change the behavior, and hopefully if their behavior changes, their hearts will change over time. That's what laws are put in place for. That's why the laws are put in place. So I think this, if it's passed in its original form, I think there's a lot of good points in there. I don't know what's going to happen when we get to the Senate. I don't even know what's going to happen when we get to the congressional floor, the House floor. But these points tells me that at least our people at the top are thinking. And these points, these are just a few. There's quite a few things that I couldn't write down because I was talking too fast. But these are some good accountability policing, no chokeholds. Police should give announcement before firing a weapon. We know that's not always a realistic situation because, now, I want to go back. Destiny, I want to ask you this. You did see the video of what happened in Atlanta, is that correct?
The Wendy's?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you see the body cam one as well as the one from the wide view?
I did not see the body cam one. I haven't seen that one.
So we got to make sure you get that one today because that's a good one to look at. What I saw was a conversation between the officer and the gentleman being questioned because he was drinking. It seemed like a civil conversation that any cop should ask anybody he thinks is suspicion of drunk driving. The guy was compliant. He was going along with it. When things changed is when the officer said, well, I need to arrest you. And then he said, let me take your arm. Didn't force him. Let me take your arm. He pulled his cuffs, and that's when the scuffle broke out. Now, that's just the first part. The second part of it was why did the officer feel the need to shoot him and kill him? Because, a taser is a non-lethal weapon. Now, can people die from it? Yeah, you can. You got a heart problem, other issue, pacemaker, whatever. But I don't feel that it was necessary. Me personally, I don't feel it was necessary for them to shoot and kill this guy. Goes back to the guy that was killed running away because of a child support issue.
Walter Scott.
Mm-hmm. Shot him in the back. So I think, and this wasn't directly a question to you, Des, it's really for the whole group. Why do you think these people feel that it's so easy to kill us?
No justice. They go home after killing them.
They're scared. And if you have a uniform that you put on and you can't police Hispanics the same way, Caucasians the same way, and African Americans the same way,
Right.
I'm not going to keep watching different CNN footage showing you gunning this guy down.
Right.
If they're using rubber bullets on peaceful protesters, why could they use a rubber bullet to hit him? It's no difference. The taser, okay, he was on alcohol, he was drunk, let's say that. Do I agree that he was driving drunk? No, I don't, because he could have killed several people. But that does not deserve for him to die. Not at all.
So 100%.
At Wendy's in front of other families, that does not, no, not ever.
He didn't deserve to die.
No, he didn't deserve to die. As a matter of fact, I don't think he deserved to be shot.
You asked the question, why is it so easy?
Why is it so easy?
Because they go home. After the officer pulls the trigger, he goes home. He still has a job. Look, laws are not written for lawbreakers.
Right.
consequences of laws are written for lawbreakers.
Right.
There has been no consequence for killing brothers.
So okay.
And if there is consequence,
right.
that's justice. And that means that officer hesitates before he pulls that trigger, because now he can lose his wife, he can lose his job, he can spend time in jail. Like, if we're gonna go out here, and this argument is too easy to pick apart and lose the problem. Well, maybe he should have shot him, maybe he shouldn't. And if somebody's
I don't see
dad,
any justification for killing this guy.
me either. But if somebody's dad is an officer of the law,
right.
they're not going to see any justification for it. That taser could have been this, that, and the other.
Right.
That's not the argument. If he is seen as done wrongful, which it is wrong, is he going to be punished? Because that means if I get pulled over,
right.
he's gonna hesitate because he's got something to lose.
Right.
He can't take something from me without losing.
Well, I think it goes a little bit further than that. I mean, I agree with you saying.
Justice.
I think that it goes. I mean, you touched on it. I think that if you're a cop and if you kill someone, especially a white cop, you know that the consequences are not going to be as stiff for you. Now, we had a cop on another show on Sunday. She actually was working in Bedford for like 10 years. She just transferred to Frisco. She was a seasoned cop, and she came in and spoke eloquently. She also stated there are certain leverages that cops have that the average citizen don't have, right? But it got to get to a certain point, and I can almost understand that to a certain extent, because certain things that comes with the job because of the risk they're dealing with. So there's certain things you're going to get away with. Certain things, and she actually said it. And she's a black woman, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, she's still on our side, even though she's wearing a blue uniform. But she spoke from a citizen's perspective being a cop, which I thought she had a vision that none of us have, because we haven't been in that uniform looking at it from a citizen's perspective. And I thought it was pretty powerful. I really think that because of that accountability, which doesn't exist with certain white cops, it's okay. And the other part, I think I mentioned on another show, I don't know if it was your show, I mentioned after the show, this is a thing called cognitive dissonance. They don't see us as being worthy of living. And
Yes.
some of them feel, Destiny, you agree with that?
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
So because of that, you gotta have certain laws in place. Because even though you don't think that, well, we're gonna put some laws in the show that you have to. You have to start considering the fact that this is a human being. Whether you see them as a human or dog or a cat. Go ahead.
Let's just say he did see him as a human being the whole time this conversation.
Right.
There's a sense of comfortability within the culture of the cops. If I'm in a group of people, like a team,
right,
and I know people got my back regardless of whatever I do,
right,
retaliation, whatever, that cop shot him because he knew the system got his back.
right.
He could still feel that person was a man, but he felt that the lawyers got his back, the chief,
prosecutors, everybody got his back, right?
His partner.
So with independent, with people doing independent investigations, and then if you were getting rid of the unions, now the bills make sense, and now the consequences are in place. Again,
I'm glad you mentioned
it's
unions.
so easy to go whether or not he should have been shot.
Yep.
The question is whether or not that cat that shot him is gonna get to go home. Because them officers that beat up Rodney King, they skipped out of the, they disappeared. That man choked out George Floyd, got in his car, and went to his home.
Right.
Why? Because there is no consequence.
Well, he got fired the next day.
Woohoo.
It's still.
I mean,
He went home.
We know there's a due
I
process.
can get fired for doing stupid stuff
Right.
at work.
Right.
But if I kill somebody, I don't expect to go home.
So with him getting fired is only because he had 17 other incidents. You know what I mean? He had 17 other incidents.
There's the answer to no
Right.
justice. 17 incidents.
17 other incidents, and most of us don't get more than 2 or 3. So, and then he's a guy with a gun. So,
They are implied to give him the benefit of the doubt.
right. So, okay.
So now you can't have no knock warrants, so you don't get the benefit of the
Right.
doubt. You need to go do some work, and then you gotta, when you get ready to kick that door in,
Right.
you better remember that you got your wife name tattooed on your back, like, cause you might lose her.
And that
Yeah.
cop, when she was here, she said something about when they get the call through dispatch to go to a scene, they're getting a lot of information. They say, okay, there's been other crimes here. We've had calls here before. There's been other incidents, and they let them know whether this person is a armed suspect. All of them said, I talked to 3 different cops, and all of them said the worst situation is a domestic situation because you never know how it's going to go. And traffic stops is second, right? So here it is, this situation where, and even what happened Friday night, let's give it the benefit of the doubt, right? That these cops, this was a traffic stop, so to speak. But not necessarily, because they didn't just pull the guy over.
Well, he was in the car, sleeping in the drive.
Someone else called, right? Someone else called the police.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know how to classify.
He was
It
asleep.
still could have been other. When I get pulled over and it's
Right.
race involved, because they put me in the back seat of the car every single time.
I know what you mean, sister.
That could have been the situation.
Right.
Hey, come on, sir, Rashard, let me talk to you in the backseat of the car.
Mhm.
They could have drove him off the premises
Right.
without that. The whole video I watched, the two officers were very calm. It was, hey, how many drinks you have? Where you coming from? Do you
What
know-
type of drinks did you
Right,
have?
they
Right.
asked him those
Yeah.
questions. They would ask any of us.
And he said, I didn't know.
He said he had a margarita, and then the story
Okay.
changed a few
Okay,
times.
yeah.
When he figured out that man could not do this, clearly, he reached for him before he actually said you're under arrest. He was reaching for him and putting his hand behind his back. That's when it went left field. That's when he became like, ooh, let me get out of here. He said, well, you had too much to drink. And he was reaching while he was saying
But
it.
he's still resisting.
However, they could have did so many other things
They
before
could've
he
done-
shot. You got
Right.
to do this to shoot somebody.
Right.
He was already taking off. Hey, PD, 10-4, we got one running. What would have killed them to do that? He was already
I don't see any
intoxicated.
justification for the killing.
Man,
No.
until it's going to
They
be
could have
like
shot
this.
one shot in the air or something. I don't know, but I don't see any justification.
It's
for
going to be
this guy.
uncomfortable because now that good cop, when he goes out and makes that stop, he could get shot in the face. And guess what society's going to say? That's what he gets. You know
So
why?
do you feel
'Cause
that-
everybody else keeps
So
doing it.
there's going to be retaliation against cops?
Hell yeah. Every minute. And there's some good cops out there. I have tons of friends that are police officers. Thank you for protecting and serving what you were sworn in to do. But it's uncomfortable now because when a cop stops you, you don't know if you're going to die.
Why?
Do you turn on Facebook Live? Do you turn on Instagram Live? Do you call your friends? What do you do to make sure that that police is not bringing whatever problems he has to your window when he asks you for your registration?
You arrest the ones who've done it in the past and make sure that they are just. We get justice. Like you go to jail.
And how
forever.
long does it take justice to be served?
Well,
Because
it's 400 years of injustice.
So,
it's gonna
so
take
how
some
many
time.
of us are gonna die? Are we gonna die before you say, "Oh damn, now I'm pissed off"? Like how many more times we gotta be pissed
It's not
off?
about being pissed off. We've been pissed off. I'm talking about action. Because it's easy to go individually catching a sin. We know it's wrong. It's not a question of morality or immorality. And another thing, if it took 400 years to get to this space, it ain't gonna get fixed in 400 minutes.
Well,
We have got to step back and, like, my generation,
We just
ain't
got it
gonna
right
see
to
it.
50
we
years.
we just pulled up the first route. Think about it. I just had people who've known me my whole life go, oh my God, Greg, I did not know it was like that. Okay, so now I'm going to fill you in. Let me give you some data and some history, so when we pull up the next route, we can plant a better seed. We're asking, I say it all the time, ideas without plans are a waste of time. And now it's a pressure being applied to people who never would have done a thing going, yo, we might need to change this. Yo, we're going to write this in the law. So that way my nephew, he has a different kind of problem. Or that racist officer, because they're going to be, just like it's racist, just like it's fascist, just like it's sexist, they ain't going nowhere. You need them. That's how other people like us exist.
Right.
But I don't need a racist to be able to be trigger happy because his homeboy didn't go to jail.
And you can't scream for that.
But it's not always just
You
white
can't-
cops
yeah.
doing it too.
I
Black cops are
never
doing it
mentioned
too.
color.
So
I
who
never,
should we trust?
the ones that get arrested are the ones you don't trust, the ones that go to jail, because all we're fighting for is justice.
It's corrupted. It's just like when you join a fraternity or sorority. You go from being a regular college student to this lifestyle. You don't know what they're putting in your head. So these are regular people when they take their uniform off. But when they put their uniform on, what are they thinking? Because they're not thinking.
Well, now
That's
we
why
know,
the
now
laws
we
have
know
to be
we're
stronger.
just
I'm
thought.
telling you right now, I am not waiting on no laws. If someone harms my family,
Right.
I'm retaliating. I'm not waiting on somebody to
Right.
say guilty. I'm not.
You know what that's called?
George Floyd died a month
It's
ago.
called justice.
And it's been 5 different shootings between that time. How long we got to wait? Like what? How many more people gonna die before we like?
Probably.
I'm mad
I
again.
mean, there's going to be
Again, I
there's going to
think
be some more.
I'm mad. You gonna continuously be mad, and this law is gonna go into effect when next September,
so what are we gonna do?
It's just being debated.
2027.
So what are we gonna
What do you want to do?
What is,
I just told you what I'm gonna do. I
okay.
can't speak of what y'all gonna do. But if somebody in the Bennett family gets murdered, I'm retaliating myself.
Okay.
Law-abiding citizen, y'all better watch that movie. You better watch that movie
So-
because I'm doing all of that. I'm digging an underground tunnel. I'm coming up. I'm stabbing you. Going back down. I'm doing it all.
Love it.
yeah.
Pisces.
He was white though.
That the same problem is that justice was
So, but
not
what you're
served.
saying, it's not gonna matter if it's a black cop or white cop.
It doesn't matter.
Just-
These laws are
just-
picking
I
and
never
choosing
mentioned
when
color.
they're relevant. It's not fair. Because
Right.
even though the what no knock thing goes in effect, how many times has that body cam not worked? Let's be honest. So if the body cam is working, we see what's wrong with the system, right?
They changed
But
the laws
how
for the
many
body
times has
cam,
the body
too.
cam not been on, and we have cold cases where these people have been shot, killed,
Well, there's
murdered,
been
and all.
situations where some cops forgot to turn it on too.
Like, how do you forget to turn something on? You can't turn on and off yourself.
Well, they
So
should
Why
be
do
able
they
to
have
turn
the
it on.
ability
You
to
hold
turn
them
off?
accountable.
Right. It's
I'm
just-
sorry, Destiny, what'd you say?
Mm-mm.
Oh, sorry. My question is, why do they even have the ability to turn it on
That's
and
a good
off?
point.
That's
Bingo.
a flaw to
That's a
me.
good point.
So change
Because
the law.
the law wasn't in effect for that.
That's what I keep saying. Like the pen is mightier than the sword.
Well, you know, the law is
Listen.
evolutionary. It evolves when it's
Listen.
necessary to change.
Right,
And the
again.
good thing about it is that the law will change. So even though look, we were slaves at one point. That was the law. At some point in 2013, the 13th Amendment, it became unconstitutional to enslave people, right?
So then the Jim Crow laws came into effect.
Except in the commission of a crime.
And guess what? When we broke Jim Crow laws, we had consequences. So
Right.
black people, no matter how terrible the laws
Right.
were, abided by those terrible laws because the consequences were worse than the laws. Now people are writing in laws that will afford consequences. We keep asking how many people can shut off the body cam. Well, after 4 or 5 do it and they go to jail or they get shot or they go to they get life or something like that.
Right.
Number 7 and 8, he gonna hesitate.
Are they in regular
So-
jail or are they protected jail? Because
Whatever
if you're
the law
protected,
says.
you're not serving any type of
Do
penalty.
you want
to
to
me.
solve the
So now we want
Well,
everybody to be in the same type of
I'm gonna just say
Yes,
this.
he need to be in jail
I'ma
with
just say
Leroy.
this.
He need to be in jail with Michael.
Don't fix the blame, fix the problem.
The problem has been here, and I don't see it going
Okay.
nowhere. So make these people feel uncomfortable. All y'all that's on the front line, shout out to you. Make them feel
Absolutely.
uncomfortable. These laws moving too slow.
Good.
Make them feel
Laws are-
uncomfortable for what?
Laws are
do
traditionally
what?
reactive.
Right.
They ain't
They
helping
are-
them.
You know,
Make them feel uncomfortable, so what happens?
To speed this process up, because like
Well,
you
they
said,
What's
do.
the
We're talking
process?
this process.
yeah,
the
all
lawmaking
them little
process.
cute little laws. We still have people down with them cute little laws.
I mean, but you know something? There are departments that are taking these policies up before they become a federal law. They're taking policies that they're, like you said, New York just signed this thing saying that no chokeholds, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. The bill hasn't been turned into a law yet. It's still in the makings of it. So we don't have to wait. All these jurisdictions, what are 1,800 jurisdictions across the country right now? That's what I heard, 1,800.
Yeah.
That's quite over 1.1 million officers, law enforcement officers across the country. That's a lot of people. But it's not a lot compared to 380 million we have in this country, but it's still a lot. You know, California, I mean LA, and I think New York and some other jurisdiction, maybe Dallas, has some of the largest police departments, right, in the country.
Yeah.
Because they need to based on the population. Texas is the 3rd largest state as far as population is
Yeah.
concerned. You know, but I think, and I agree with all of you guys, there should be a speedy process with these laws, but we got to just follow the due process. Now, I wish we could speed them up.
In the
but they have to
meantime,
be
keep
debated and
protesting.
argued. Huh?
In the meantime, keep protesting.
You gotta keep
Yeah,
protesting.
that's dope.
Let me
All
ask,
day.
let me ask a question. I'm gonna ask a question. And this is for people around my age or whatnot. When we walked into the classroom,
What's your age, by the way?
27. No, I'm
I'm
41.
gonna say what?
Whoa! No, 40. I'm 41.
Okay.
You're an age group.
I'm 21, baby. Don't play with me.
I hear you on that. So when we walked into the classroom, there were always 5 rules, right? It was don't talk when somebody else talking, raise your
Right.
hand and do this or whatever.
Right.
And under those 5 rules were 5 consequences. And be honest with yourself. Let's not talk about what ifs. Let's be honest. Now, usually the class was 25 to 30 folks. The same 6 or 7 people got in trouble
Same
all
ones.
year long, right?
Yep.
Now, and then you had those 4 or 5 in the classroom that weren't gonna ever get in trouble,
Right.
no matter what.
Right.
But then you had the rest of us. You had that middle group. So I just gave you 6 or 7, 4 or 5. That's 10. Let's say at least
20
20 people.
Yeah.
Okay. I guarantee 60% of those 20 didn't do dumb stuff because they didn't want the consequences.
Right.
I was one of them.
So, but that's a good thing though.
That's my point. So
That's
what
a
I'm
good
saying
point.
is, racists are gonna be racist,
Yeah.
and bad cops are gonna stay bad cops. I just need them to hesitate long enough to get caught. That's it. But if we stay one case at a time, what happens is we find out George Floyd was a bad person, and then people take that and they justify a murder because of his past act. It's almost like it's like this. Wait a minute. We complain about big pharma. Pharmaceutical makes all this money, but how many people in this room is on medication from the doctor? That's the problem. So wait The moment we decide to say, what can I actually do about this?
Right.
Because the pen is mightier than the sword. Because trust me, if somebody jump on my, I've made a decision that if it gets unruly and this cat ain't done nothing,
Right.
just because I want somebody to help me, let's just see what happens. You know?
Well, I want to change the conversation, the narrative, just a little bit. Still talking about policing the police. There's been a lot of talk out of the Minnesota legislation about defunding the police. I want to know from each of you. I'm going to start with you, Destiny. What do you think about defunding the police?
Will you define that so people understand?
Okay, so let me explain it first.
Please.
What they're talking about, well, some of the arguments coming out of Minnesota legislation is that we should defund the police department or eliminate it. Meaning taking funds away out of certain programs that the police officers have so they can only do specific things, right? I think that's wrong, but anyway, that's just my opinion. And then the other piece is just eliminate it. So that means that we're going to have like Texas Rangers walk around doing law enforcement. They're sworn in by some sheriff department, and they wouldn't be around either, I guess. Just going around, they're appointed by the governors to go out and just handle law enforcement. These are people who are not licensed, these are people, they just sworn in, like they did with U.S. Marshals.
Like bounty hunters.
Like bounty hunters, right. I know that's what they did with Bonnie and Clyde. They had Texas Rangers go out and, find Bonnie and Clyde and bring them to justice by any means necessary. That was before Malcolm X. So, Destiny, what are your thoughts about defunding the police?
Of course, I'm for it, especially when, and I feel like instead of defund, with reallocating the funds.
Reallocating.
Like for instance, I looked up one of my friends. He had told me this is town close to Houston, Baytown, small population, $28 million.
Yeah.
Baytown, yeah, $28 million goes towards the cops, right? Just for the cops alone, right? And then they still struggle with community centers, and the community still struggles. It's just like, now if y'all take those that, split it or whatever, just take that million and put it into social work, put it into other things, then let's go. I feel like we put a lot of responsibilities on police officers.
There's a lot of responsibility on cops. I agree
Some
with
things
that they should not have to do. I agree with you 100% on that one. There is way too much responsibility that they have.
Right. So, and I do feel like we need to use more when it comes to social workers, or even what's called public safety officers.
Yeah.
We need to start utilizing those
even
more.
Psychologists.
And leave the criminal stuff to the cops.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm just looking up, have y'all ever looked like the requirements of the police officers is bare minimum. But when I look at the responsibilities, for even the public safety officers, even says right here, being able to de-escalate situations and other things like that. So a lot of the stuff that's in the responsibilities of public safety officers, like it could have been a public safety officer who went to that Wendy's and talked to that man.
Well, you gotta remember, they were first responders. So these cops that showed up, they're the first ones to respond. If there was a situation where, if there was a police situation, the police are gonna go in before any paramedics or any fire department. They're gonna go in and clear the scene, make sure everything is safe. So there's a time period between the first responders and the second responders and third and fourth and so on. So I don't know how that would work. I do agree that the funding should be reallocated. But the question now is, where does that money go? Does it go to recruiting? Does it go to training? Does it go to weapons and ammunition, or what?
Well, let me add about the funding. All right. Each department, on average, in these cities across the country, is about 30% going to cops. Baked in that budget is a fund strictly for police brutality, meaning they've already budgeted in money for cops not doing their job properly.
Right. It's almost like a malpractice, like doctors.
Malpractice, malpractice insurance.
Okay.
Some of that money could be turned over to other departments. Because what happens when we have these cops, they get kicked off, but they have no accountability.
Right.
The department still has to pay the civil penalty from that fund. If they don't have the money, they have to pull a municipal bond.
Right.
And so, guess who's making money off the municipal bond? The banks and investors.
Right.
So, let's take an example. Minneapolis.
Right.
Remember that Australian tourist who got shot by the Somali cop?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, the civil award, they gave her $20 million.
Right.
They felt her life was 20 million. That's a whole different topic there.
Mhm.
So Minneapolis doesn't have that kind of money. So they have to pull a bond
Right.
to pay it. By the time that bond gets paid off, they would have then paid $40 million.
Well, I mean, okay, what you're saying, it sounds like it would be almost like an airline, right?
Yeah.
If I ran American Airlines, I got to take out insurance just in case there's an accident, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because if I have an accident, a whole lot of things are going to happen. You know, there's this public thing, it's a public safety thing, like, you know, is people going to be afraid to fly? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm one of them, right? But, so what I'm saying is, if you have millions of dollars set aside for insurance purposes, a plane goes down, 100 people die. That's costing the airline a lot of money, so they get insurance for that. That's what companies like AIG was there for.
But you notice the frequency of that.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm just saying. So that's that's because flying is a lesser risk than being a cop.
Well,
Much lesser risk than being a cop.
It goes back to
Proceed.
it goes back to what she was saying. Though it goes back to it's adjusting the way they police. Like it
Right.
really comes down to
So
adjusting
you
the
say
way.
training?
Well, beyond the training, it's eliminating the way. Like if you're a first responder,
Right.
then your first situation should be in response. You
And their
shouldn't
job
be
is
able to
de-escalate.
follow people.
Their job is to try to de-escalate.
Beyond that, like you shouldn't be able to have a routine traffic stop. You shouldn't be able to just knock on
Well,
the
cops
door.
will tell you there's no routine traffic
Right.
stops.
But I mean, you shouldn't
Right.
be able to stop me for jaywalking. Like that's you should. If I'm causing a problem, then you should be able to respond. A lot of times things escalate
Right.
simply because you're bothering me for no reason. And I'll give a real example. I'm standing in Starbucks, literally waiting on a coffee. It's two officers in there, both sitting looking out the window. I'm standing in line, minding my own business. I'm not even making eye contact. One of them gets up and backs up towards me, starts rocking back and forth, puts his hands by his hips. I know what this is about. His first question is, where you going?
You're in the Starbucks.
I'm in Starbucks. Where you
Okay.
going? So now, any man worth his salt gonna have something fly to say, but that's the way he's policing me.
Right.
It should be
So
unlawful
it's
for
intimidation.
him to police me
So you
like
think
that.
it was intimidation, trying to just
Well,
size you up or
to
something?
start a fight. But what I'm saying is, if there are consequences, but not just getting his badge number and saying I'm
Right,
gonna turn
right,
you in,
right.
but you can't police like that because you're agitating the situation, right? Now, if I'm in there and I'm splashing coffee on people, he should be the first one to respond.
Right.
So if we're gonna call them first responders, then that's the beginning of the law change. And then how they police after the response is the second part of the law change. Now, it took 400 years to get to this point. It ain't happening tomorrow. And some people got to get out of their lifelong positions.
You know, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think our police chiefs across the country should let us know what they want their cops to police.
Explain.
So, the former police chief of Dallas,
Okay.
he went on.
You the one that blew that guy up for killing those cops?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. He said that, you call us to go get that dog and go talk to that homeless person.
Right.
We don't want to do those things. I said, for me, that's fine. Like, we can reallocate money
I see
to
what
cover
you're
those programs. And
So there's a non-emergency call, and then there's the
Mm-hmm.
emergency call.
Correct.
Okay.
And in turn, I'm all for cops getting paid higher if they're only responsible for murders,
Right.
Kidnapping, whatever, what they're supposed to do, not the extra
So
stuff.
it's funny you say that because just last night, me and Patricia was here working, and we heard a huge explosion just outside because we got these sliding glass doors back here in our offices. Huge explosion. All the lights went out. First thing I was gonna do is call the police because I'm like, what the? Somebody that blew up the transformer or something, trying to get to us,
Yeah.
right? Because we are a media company, we talking shit that people don't want to hear. Don't want to hear. But anyway, my first thing was to call a non-emergency to Pantego Police. But as soon as we were leaving, what did we do? What happened? We saw the big truck coming. I could have been 15 minutes. We saw the Encore truck coming in to fix it. So I don't know if they got some alert. So okay, it was a transformer thing that went out. But I was surprised they got here so fast. I swear to God.
How was your tone? You say, hi, my name's Kenny. I'm calling from Pantego. Or do you say, hi, my name's Kenny. I'm calling from Pantego. Because it depends on your voice
So
how
if I
fast
had a
it
deeper
comes.
tone.
Now you're like, hey, this is Kenny from DC. Oh, yeah, I got a little transformer problem. They would have blew your muffin cap back blue. But then you probably was like, huh, it's Kenny from KMWi-Media.
This is our Pisces.
And boom, he probably was like, oh, that's Kenny. He sounds like he pays taxes on time. Let's send a cop out right there. Let's send 6 of them. Huh? They probably hit you with it. How did you say it, Kenny?
Actually, I didn't call.
Okay. Well, if you would have called, what was your tone? Give me the voice.
I probably would have done it in the car because I like the car.
Okay.
And I would make sure they saw me when they came.
Whoop, 911, what's your emergency? Give me the voice.
I don't know, I can't do it now. I probably would have, hey, something blew up back in my building. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, they wouldn't have came. They wouldn't have came because you sound too black. They wouldn't have came.
I'm like, yo, niggas. No, I don't know. Anyway, you guys, look. I want to skip over to another.
Oh, I meant to tell you, Kenny. I meant about the,
sure.
what was the lady on the phone?
Destiny.
Destiny. I agree with Destiny. I think they should reallocate the funding to defund them. They already are not making enough money. Even though I'm not for what the bad cops do. In general, that profession, they are highly underpaid. Now, I think like my job, they need to implement diversity training.
Yep.
They need to do anger management.
Yep.
They need to have ongoing counseling.
Well, you know something?
To fulfill
Law
those hours.
enforcement does have that.
Which part? Diversity training? Are they skipping
I don't know about
sections?
the diversity training. I know they go through psyche battles.
That's what I wanted to be. Let me correct this. I didn't want to be a cop, but when I was in Memphis, Tennessee, I was going to be a cop. You know why? Because they paid the most during that time. I was going to be a cop for the wrong reasons. I probably would have died the first day on the
But
street.
you know something? There's probably a lot of cops that joined the police department for that very reason.
Yep. Correct.
Because, we were talking to the young lady that was here, the cop that was here. She said, nobody, unless you come from a family of law enforcement,
history, yeah.
No one wants to just go and become a cop.
Right, but they were paying $22 an hour,
and my
then
brother
26.
joined the police department because of the fact that in D.C. back then they were paying cops pretty good money.
Pretty good money, and now cops are making what a person would make. I don't know if you were a CNA.
But they also get a lot of overtime and all these other things.
But look how many dirty cops it is just to make the salary they should be getting.
You all remember what happened in New Orleans back in the 90s, where the whole department was corrupt. And they sent the FBI there, and I told you about the Antoinette Franks, the one that killed her and her friend. She got her buddy, her boyfriend, riding around her squad car. She killed her father. Then she went into the place that she was moonlighting, this little Chinese restaurant, carry out, and she ended up robbing and killing those folks too. And then she stood there like she was the first responder when the rest of the police came and acted like, well, I got the call, so I got here first. And then they asked, well, how'd you get the call? The call didn't go out yet. And she knew too much.
I see.
And so one of the sergeants, who was a smart guy, he can see that something was going on, decided to arrest her. At least take her gun away first, then sat her in the back of the squad car. Now she's on death row.
They ain't making enough.
So when's the last time somebody did that? In that situation?
There are situations we don't hear about, but I'm sure there are enough smart, seasoned cops that can pick out a cop.
They figured it out.
There's a lot of bad ones out there that's gonna try it again, but there's some that were teetering. It's like
it's on the fence. Like, should I be a good cop?
If you're only making $30,000 a year, and I know I can do this, I can rob this drug deal over here, and I can take at least $50,000 out of this pocket right now,
and I don't go to jail,
and I don't go to jail. Or the consequences are so minimal
that I can pay my way out.
I can pay my way out. It's like, where's the loyalty when you're not making enough? You start doing side jobs just to make ends meet. So a lot of these people are corrupted just because they're not making enough. But again, what I was just doing it to make enough. Right. But I really wasn't out there to protect and serve. I probably would have been doing some John. What's the movie? John. What was the? You go do it. You can't come to me. That movie.
Training Day.
Yeah, Training Day. Thank you. I'd have been the Training Day cop, and I'm telling you this here. So I was doing it for the wrong reasons, and a lot of people just do it because they're hiring. So I made it. I went through the training and everything.
I think those New Orleans cops for the same reason. There were no jobs down there. There were no jobs. So these folks were taking this job.
They're going anywhere.
They're going through training. I'm going to get paid training. When I get out, I'll have a badge and a gun.
Got a badge and gun.
I know enough drug dealers out here that I can do some shit on the side.
And then get some extra money.
Get some extra cash.
And then even though I said, no, I don't want it, they still were calling me, come on and do the police thing. I'm like, dang, y'all desperate, ain't it? So they're just hiring any people that just give great answers.
And then you got those other folks, like some of those cops that were in Ferguson, right? Some of those cops, remember that when Obama sent what's his name down there, the Eric Holder down there to investigate the entire department? Well, they had to clean it out. They pretty much did a gut job, and they changed some of the policies down there.
They did what?
They did a gut job.
No, after that.
They changed policies.
And then they got some consequences.
Oh yeah,
those policies.
There's some right.
Has it gotten better?
It's better.
But what happened in Ferguson for them to go in there and gut it up?
Something has to happen.
There was a lot of corruption.
Right. Something has to be wrong in order to make it right.
There was some
and guess what led that? People on their phones and it caught it, and that's what made it red flag. But had the phone not been on,
too many complaints. Like this guy who had the 17 before this last incident, he had 17 complaints against him. Right, he's been written up 17 times.
Yeah, got away.
And then this is the other thing that's part of this thing is making police records public, because when he got hired in Minneapolis police, he came from another jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
The information wasn't transferred over.
Right.
So when he got hired, they didn't do that full background check to see where's, I mean, Patricia, didn't you tell me they do that with teachers, right?
What's that?
You go from one jurisdiction to the next. They do a
Oh,
thorough
they have to. You
background
didn't
check.
know
Right.
that.
I just did
Absolutely.
one.
Absolutely.
But you're
I-
talking about a high risk job where you carrying a badge,
Right, and a gun, and a
which comes with
taser.
some level of authority.
Right.
You're not going to do that.
Well,
But
the cop who killed Tamir Rice, he was
Right.
jumping the station.
Okay,
Because
so
of that.
So,
they're making them public record, right?
Yep.
All right, so now when I see this cat been out of line 17 times, he'll never make it to the next step.
He'll never become a cop again. He should be banned from being a cop.
So everybody's right. That's the point I'm making. But once we get to through the morality of the situation, yes, we need to put it on video so we can put them on blast, so we can apply some pressure, so the rules will change, so the consequences change.
Right.
But if we can't go through those steps, or if we're not even willing to go find out how we got to this point,
Right. Right.
like you gotta change, you gotta reverse it. You can't adjust a bad situation. Systemically, you have to pull it up and reverse it. So it's not gonna happen tomorrow. What's gonna make me sad is that we're super excited for 2 or 3 months.
That would make
Something
me sad.
quality happens, or somebody goes to jail, and then we all start high-fiving, and then go back to the store.
Well-
Or we keep applying pressure, and people gonna die, and people are gonna be mistreated because bad people are being exposed. We just gotta pray and hope that we ain't one of them people,
Right.
so we can make some actual changes. But if we want to make each situation a separate deal, if everything's important, nothing is important.
well,
Sorry.
I was gonna say, going back to Eric Holder.
Right.
All right, we knew that they made a report on things that got to change, and some departments changed it. But in comes the Keebler elf, Jeff Sessions, and reverses everything.
There
Like
you go.
everything on the table, we got your back. You can do whatever you want.
So we gotta get rid of the.
So you know how hard it is for someone to actually change the Constitution of the United States. I mean, you can't go back and reverse the 13th Amendment.
No.
It's going to. First of all, you're not going to get the votes for it, right? There are some people, you might get some votes, but you ain't gonna get everybody, saying, okay, we got no votes because you need at least 2/3 of the Senate to approve something like that. You know what I mean? And then Congress has to approve it too. So it's a whole lot of stuff that has to take place to change that law. However, unless it's a beneficial thing, say for instance, it's some diagnosis came up where every person is under African American descent is crazy and we're dangerous. Then you go back and change the law where you got to be in prison, but that ain't gonna never happen. It's not realistic. So, I'm sorry, you want to say something? I'm going to skip the subject.
No, you were saying an amendment, and it has to go through all the states. Like 2/3 of the states have to pass it. That's what's going on with the women's ERA.
Right.
amendment. So
Right.
That's a whole different topic there.
So, but you mentioned that as we talk about the Constitution, I want to get into something that's critical, and I said that here on this show on We the People. Up until Election Day, or maybe beyond, I want to touch on voting because it's so important. And all the things we're talking about does have a hand in it. So, hey, I want to start with you. Explain to us uninformed people, like me and myself, how important is voting? I'll make it easy before you start now.
It is important.
Why?
Why? Because it's the thing that changes the system. It has to start somewhere.
Bring it down to that 6th grade level for me.
Okay. All right.
Remember that 6th grade 6-year-old.
All right. So we got about 5 people here,
Right.
right? And we have to make a decision on what type of water we're bringing in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't vote, me and Shawnee, we're the only ones voting,
Mm-hmm.
get to decide we want Kool-Aid.
Right.
I know we don't know Kool-Aid.
I was gonna say red or
But
gray.
because everybody who didn't vote,
Right.
they don't have a say in it.
I was gonna say whatever color you pick, that decides what.
Right, because if it's red, I'm like,
But you don't got to say
If I
because
don't vote.
if you don't vote.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. So let me this is for everybody. And Destiny, I want you to chime in as well because I know this is important for your age group as well. I want to know from some of us who voted at least once or twice already, right? Well, let me make a statement first. One thing I do know is that voting is a privilege that we have. It is a right. And there's so many people that died for that one simple thing that we have as a United States citizen.
I want to ask you a question about that, because you just said the most important thing.
One of the most.
There's so many people that died to have the opportunity to
vote.
Why is that important?
Why is what important?
To be able to vote. Like people are, it's so important. People
Because
are
we live in what's the word there?
Democracy.
We live in a democracy, right? And we are a nation of laws,
Mhm.
right? And based on a nation that has laws, we have vote. We have a democracy. Democracy is that we have as citizens, because the name of this show is called We the People. That's actually taken from the preamble of the Constitution. We the people. The Constitution is made for us. So if it's for us, by us, right? Then that means that we as an individual has a right to have a say so. I got a voice in this thing. I got a stake in this thing. You know, me to being a U.S. citizen, it should be a requirement that every person who's a United States citizen to vote. You should be required, or you just be given a fine if you don't.
Yeah, if you're.
We're not there yet, but I'm saying at some point we should, because think how many people would vote. Now, how you vote is the second thing, but the most important thing is voting. Shawnee's shaking her head, and I want to dig into you right now, but I want to go to Destiny first. Destiny, what do you think about voting?
I think it's important on a local scale, and state, but federal, I do feel like it's the illusion of inclusion. I'll just kind of leave it at that, because I mean it's because isn't it, and y'all can help me out with it, because I don't really know much about it. I'm not gonna pretend like I do.
Okay.
But isn't it like it's the popular vote and there's the electoral votes.
Right.
The electoral votes is where votes in the president, or that's who elects the president.
Right.
Yeah, it's electoral college.
Electoral college.
The electoral clock. Thank you.
College.
So that's like, to me, I just feel like it's when it comes on a federal scale, like the illusion of inclusion, like they make it seem like our vote really matters, but honestly, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You sound like a conspiracy theorist.
Okay, wait, hold on. All right, let's take away the presidency out of it. We're going to talk about senators.
Right.
The senator is, we only have 2 per state, and it's based on the popular vote.
Right.
However, no. This is going on.
Okay.
Like, it has nothing to do with the electoral college.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
It's basically the popular vote.
Right.
So whoever votes gets the most votes. Of registered voters, who actually go out and vote, they win the Senate seat.
The seat. Mm-hmm.
And the importance of a senator is to appoint people. Let's just say HUD, where Ben Carson is.
Housing and Urban Development.
Yeah.
Tickled you, didn't
Yeah, because he don't continue.
Well, anyway, it's the senator's job to appoint. Once it is appointed by the president, it's their job to decide if he should be in that office.
He's the worst.
There's only 100 senators.
So there's a confirmation process.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
That's why it's important.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, but I want to make sure we understand, because you said some things that I said at the very beginning that you just kind of brushed by. We the people.
How a bill becomes law?
No.
Oh.
We the people.
Okay.
When did we become people? Do you know? When were we able to vote?
When we're blacks?
Yeah.
Under the 14th Amendment.
Okay.
Well, first we had to gain citizenship first.
Okay.
The
When?
15th Amendment gave us the right to vote.
I didn't ask you when we got rights. I asked you when we could actually vote. Because the electoral college.
Men were allowed to vote under the 15th Amendment.
Right.
Black
so
men too.
Right, because that's when we became men. That's the point I'm making. Secondly, we were just a representation of the vote. That's why the electoral college is designed the way it is.
Well, it was based on fairness, based on population.
No, it was not based on fairness. What happened was the people in the South understood there was not enough white bodies to compete with the North. That's why the Civil War, I'm telling you what I know.
Okay.
So there were way more black population in the South from the states that wanted to secede. But they understood that in a popular vote, the North would win all of the seats simply because they had more bodies. But they didn't want slaves. And you guys can look this up. I'm not making any of this up.
Oh, I'm not.
It sounds familiar.
So the slaves, they were like the the seat holders in the South were like, hey, we need these bodies to count, but they can't have a lot of representation because their votes, if it counts.
So you saying that in the South they wanted to count the slaves?
They needed the representation. So before we could vote, we were a representation of a vote from the South. Hence the 3-5 compromise. So for every 5 black people, there were 3 representations. So every 10, there were 6. And that's how they got House seats. We couldn't actually vote, but if we drew an X in that area, then if it was enough of us, they could control the Electoral College. That's why it was designed.
But the Electoral College was already in place.
But that's why the seats were designed for those representations, or else the South never would have had representation. Hence why I never subscribed to Republican and Democrat. I never, because I have different thoughts about a whole bunch of different issues on both sides. However, we're talking about the power of the vote. So that's why it's important, because when we became a representation, you can actually vote people out on the federal level, and if the person in that seat wins because we didn't vote or we voted wrongly, he gets to appoint Ben Carson to the HUD situation, who doesn't even know the terms in his own area of expertise in the White House.
So that goes back to what you just said about the Senate.
So we won't change it
now. So here's the president. He's been elected, right? Now he's established his cabinet,
which is 17 members.
17 members of his cabinet, right? Which has to go through confirmation hearing. Right? Actually, I don't know if all of them really have to go through the confirmation.
No, they all.
None of them have to be qualified though.
Well, the qualification, that's one of the things that's been discussed on the hearing.
So they're changing them, right?
No, so a point is a point, regardless of what their job is. That is under the discretion of the president.
The person we voted in.
But yes, discretion. But he doesn't. They don't have the job until the Senate confirms it.
Right.
So you got to have the right seats in the House, and all you got to do is be on the same. Let me tell you something about Republicans. Republicans do a great job banding together, regardless of the moral or immoral. And what I'm saying is,
okay,
we're going to do something. No, we're in the voting space. If we're going to do something, then we need to understand how voting works on the local, state, and federal.
Well, I think it's what she said. What Destiny just said, that the local and state levels is critical, because that deals with us as individuals. That is critical. But also on the federal level is important too, based on what you just said, because these persons become a head of departments, especially the housing and urban development,
Carson
and the Secretary of Education, which we all have played a part in.
She has no idea.
She has no idea. Some executive from some organization.
So let me put an example of somebody who wanted to be one in Trump's cabinet. He was in Department of Commerce. Department of Commerce, basically, business promotion.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a guy named Andy Puzman. He's the one who owns Hardee's and Carl's Jr.
Right.
He was scheduled to be confirmed, but there was something in his past.
He was scheduled to be confirmed or going for the hearing?
Well,
when they're doing the.
He already did the hearing, so he was scheduled to be confirmed. But there was something in his past or some ideology that he had to step off.
Right.
So it's not a slam dunk, because once the information of that person comes out, there might be.
There's a lot of people he appointed that going through the vetting process, they didn't make it through because of that.
And the time when people step away from that vetting process is that there's enough constituents who actually called in the senator's office saying, hey, we don't want this dude.
Right.
So it's still in the power of the people.
Right.
The problem is we don't have enough people participating.
Participation is key.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, that was I'm gonna interject here in a second.
Well, go ahead, interject.
So to answer your original question about voting, is it important? Sure. I do my voting every 4 years or whatever. But voting is intimidating, because once you go past the people that are in the forefront that you know about, the Bidens and whomever else is on the ballot, the language on the other 22 questions, you're like, what the hell is it? You're answering it just because you have to hit enter on the end of the ballot. So for people like you and other people that are experienced in the political game, it will help you guys to help the people like us
Yes.
that don't know this verbiage.
That's a great question.
So we gotta
let's
get
get
that
right
going.
to it. So now we're having a real conversation with some real change. I like that.
Let's take 2018. Beto.
I'm gonna talk to you like a regular
But
person.
you gotta dummy it
Yeah,
down.
I'm like this. How
Because
I
what school
vote.
did you go to? I should go to that school. What school did you go
Well,
to? I didn't get my money back.
I read a lot, but what I'm
Oh,
saying, the thing is, the way I vote is like this. I literally pick the things that in my neighborhood that are important to me. Like I always vote for the tax assessor because they decide what your fees are on certain things. I always vote dry county versus wet county because I like to drink on Saturday nights and I don't want to go too far to get my drink. I always vote on the railroad commission situation because it.
Wait till weed comes on the ballot.
But that has a lot to do with zoning and then who gets what.
Right,
I always fill out the census. Those are just simple things that we can all do.
Okay.
Wait. Then when it comes to the top, don't vote straight ticket. Don't just vote a Democratic
And there's an option
ticket.
at the voting booth.
They actually removed that vote in Texas.
Yeah,
There's no more straight ticket.
it was one on my last time I went,
Yeah,
which was a
I went
couple
too.
months ago.
They took it away.
Okay, cool.
So since 2018 they took it away?
Since yesterday they had to. I just voted.
Well,
last
in the
time.
upcoming election,
Yeah.
there's no straight
All
ticket.
right, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we get
Okay.
more of them out there a lot of people don't have transportation to go vote. Let's
That was
start
one of the
there.
Okay.
things that we discussed
So
last
there's a lot of other things to why people aren't voting. It's just
Yes,
not because
it
they're
is.
lazy.
Exactly.
They don't know how to read the ballot.
Right.
They don't even know what the candidates are proposing. Because a lot of people don't have a TV. Let's be honest.
Okay.
You're very good and you're very good. And then we're this color. This color is intimidated because they're looking at it like, well, I voted for that person. They didn't win, blah, 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 the electoral college, whatever. So now people are discouraged. So not only are they uneducated, now they're discouraged. Now they don't want to vote at all.
That is a
So we
fantastic-
need you guys to dummy it down, not from the, it's
know
kind
what
of like
you
the
mean.
Bible.
Yeah,
You know, when you read the Bible at first, it's intimidating. You're like, that was
So we need a pastor that's going to explain the Bible scripture.
you got but you got to dummy it down because
I know.
everybody don't understand at this level. So in order
That's
for people
why
to
I
feel
keep saying
confident
it.
in
Yeah.
going in and saying, I'm gonna feel confident and vote for the people that died, you got to dummy it down.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you where to start off. Okay, you can go to websites, and we'll start this: vote.org or Ballotpedia. That basically to let you know who's running out. But on a county scale, or a county, borough, jurisdiction, you go to that website and say elections. So, for example, Tarrant County elections. They'll say there'll be a question like, where do I go? Put in your zip code.
Right.
They'll let you know every office that's
Except for
under
election.
that you are eligible to vote for.
Right.
You start from there. Then you get the job titles, and then you start finding, okay, this person is a comptroller. Well, what is a comptroller? Then you start going down.
Right.
But that's research, right? We talking about people that are already lazy.
Well,
We gotta dummy it down.
I'll take it to look. This,
Yeah, we
this
gotta
is
dummy
how
it
I
down.
vote. Everybody who's listening, this is how I vote. This is the honest to God truth. I could care less about the policies they speak on those platforms because I've yet to have a politician really do anything for me except Barack Obama giving me the confidence to tell my nephew he can do anything because a black man was president.
Right.
So this is how I vote. I pay attention to what they're saying and base it in morality.
Right.
Period. If you are moral or immoral, if you standing up there and you say certain things that my mama has said, hey, you don't ever be like that, or you might not want to hear that, or he lied about this. So I just pay attention to it. And then from that morality, the stances start to make sense. If you are really pro whatever, you wouldn't say thugs and then call those all good people. You just got to pay attention to the
Right.
narrative.
She's talking
Well,
about something else.
no, she's talking about how to vote. I'm getting to that. So I pick the people that I see in these platforms in morality, because everybody's on Facebook or YouTube or your phone or whatever. Your governor of the state of Texas is on all the time.
But she wants to know who was on the ballot first and what do they represent.
I'm saying that.
Okay.
So we know Donald Trump is on the ballot and Joe Biden is on the ballot. We know that the governor, that ain't research. That's who is running for this.
Right.
So then they're always on a platform.
Right.
I just listen for morality. I really do. And then I pay attention to, all right, we're going to change this law to this. Or, yeah, and then I find out if they were in a scandal.
You ride past a neighborhood that has houses. You see all these things. in
Yeah,
somebody's yard.
I'm just paying attention.
You see a sheriff. You see maybe a chief of
Just
police or
Google
something.
it.
So you saying take a picture, go back to your computer,
And you Google everything else.
do some research.
But from that,
wait, hold
it's
on.
a yay or a no. Because people not voting because they don't know, it's because they not voting because they don't.
They don't even know when the midterm is, and that's very important to half of this stuff. So what are we doing?
Donald Trump is on TV and they letting you know. So Google voting midterms.
But that's the problem though. Everybody that's educated is like, read a book, go
No.
What are we, if we won't change?
You just want somebody just to tell you.
It's people that don't have the advantage to pick up a book. It's people that are blind, deaf, and crazy.
So I can tell you this right now. I can tell you this right now that we are committed here on We the People.
Okay.
That we're going to dedicate some education on this show all the way up through the election here in November.
Please do.
Because I think it's necessary. So we're going to use this platform. I'd like to have you come back.
Absolutely.
I gotta see what my gas look like because I'm trying to.
We can take care of the gas situation. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just. So how do you decide on a restaurant? Like you've never heard of this restaurant?
I use reviews, but those reviews are dummied down. It's giving me specifics. It's not saying, oh, go to our page and look at the stars. It's saying, well, this is why I don't like it. The server is this. This is that. They close it.
Well, everybody's running, like you said, everybody's running for president.
So there's a centralized spot.
Even though I'm still going to have my own preference of why I choose that spot, I have real, statements of why they chose it and why they don't choose it. So when you're saying big words like that, it's intimidating to somebody that does not have this experience that you have.
Right.
So yes, it's easy to tell somebody, go research it, go look it up, go to this website.
That's not fair.
In order to implement these people to get to this platform and vote, you got to dummy it down.
Shawnee, there's some things that are important to you, right? Like we asked Emerson earlier, what's important to her? So we asked you the same question.
Right.
If education is important to you because you have a child that be in school probably every year. If healthcare is important, right? If taxes are important because you're a homeowner. If these things are important, then what you do is you'll research some of the people that's on the ballot. And there's a place you can go and get that. He told you that. Who's on the ballot. So you go down, okay, well, who's, the tax assessor? Who's going to be in charge? Who's the controller? Is that person up for election? If they are, so let's go look them up. What do they stand for? How do they view things? Based on morality, based on honesty, based on whatever. Those are things you look. So you know how to research. I've seen you do it.
And I'm not saying me. I'm not talking about me.
I'm
talking about for the other people that can't afford the stuff that we're sitting here talking. We all have platforms. We have powerful voices. We are influencers. But to somebody that is intimidated by that terminology and by the voting, you're going to lose more voters telling them, go research it. You got to make it dummy down for the lazy person that doesn't have the ability to do it.
But even to step back, that's so fair. Because I always say, we love to tell people, educate yourself. But you didn't educate yourself on how to read. Somebody taught you how to do that.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? So I hear
you
on that, and I say that all the time. Now, on the other side of that, there's always a first step or level to do something. So again, I like to use my own experience. It's easy to talk about electoral college votes and pass. I do that just to bring validation of what I'm saying. But I literally vote on morality. They be like, who is that cat? Who's running? I Google his name. And then I just pay attention to him.
See, I vote on experience and body of work. I want to know what you've done and then how well did you do it. That's like, going back to the 2016 election. Hillary was a sure shot winner in my mind because she had the years of experience. She was able to cross both sides of the aisle to communicate. She was a great Secretary of State. She's done things as a first lady that no other first lady in modern time has done. I know sometimes Roosevelt done some things, but I'm saying, so this woman was the complete. As a matter of fact, in the record books, they say there's never been a more seasoned candidate than
she was. You know why she didn't win?
Because she's a woman.
No.
There's a lot of reasons why she didn't win.
I know, but one of the main reasons was nobody really understood her. They understood what Donald Trump. You did. She just made the point. We understood what Donald Trump was saying. We're going to fix that. Get him out of here. I can't believe they're doing this. He didn't speak politics. He didn't speak politics, number one. And he is masterful at being the bully looking like the victim. He is masterful. It's always you and then everybody attacks him. He points at one, everybody. So now he's the victim. But he's speaking the language of the layman. He's speaking outside of politics. So people like what we just said, now his body of work is based in immorality.
So after Trump or anybody that's actually in the public eye, how do you decide people that you've never heard a word from?
They ain't gonna be the president.
Well, now being a president,
yeah.
like anybody can be a president. Kanye's running for God's sake.
But
like,
we all know Kanye, he got a gajillion followers.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody just gonna fall out the sky and be president.
We got the ability to tackle these 18-year-olds that are registered to vote. Now we have the ability to get them educated.
Yep.
So it's not go research, read a book. That's intimidating. So you have people like.
Well, people gotta find, something.
Okay.
I think the bottom line is people have to find a purpose in it, right? If you say, okay, there are going to be some benefits to me as an individual if I go out and vote, they have to buy into it. In order for these young people to buy into it, we have to give it to them. We got to give them the pluses and minuses, the circumstance. If you do vote, but we also got to give them some history. How did we even get to the point to have this vote? I mean, shit, we didn't have the right to vote in the United States, all of us, until 1965 when the voting rights.
So that's when we became people.
But they don't care about those numbers because the
But
people that's going to wait.
But if you're going to tell somebody something, and you wanted to be because it was instilled in us coming up, because we started at a young age. But for these teenagers, I'm saying recent high school graduates that are now they're the voting age, they're free now. They can make a decision without their parents when it comes to a lot of stuff. So now you have an obligation to get out there and know something about how your government is run, right? So okay, we can tell them to go search the government. That's easier than trying to find a candidate. That information doesn't change that much. So go out there and research how the government is set up, how it's structured, who's in charge of what, who does what, how does this come down to me at the state level.
That's a lot, bro.
It's a lot.
That's exactly what she's saying.
What she's saying. I'm not saying go out and research all of that,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is we have to start by delivering that information to them so they will start to buy into the idea of how important it is to vote. Also provided with the history. Included saying, hey, look, there are people who died. That's what Martin Luther King did. Well, he died from trying to help sanitation workers get a job. But what I'm saying is, he was only down there to help people register to vote. This whole thing was built on a premise of people protesting and fighting for change. People want to change.
I think I'm gonna jump in real quick on this because I'm talking from I teach these kids and I've taught these kids and I know what they're looking at. They don't care. They give a damn about history.
Thank you.
They do not care about history. You got to break it down to them as why is this relevant
to me
right now?
Yep.
Right now, how will this benefit you for voting to vote? What are you going to get out of it? They want to know what am I getting out of this? And we have George Floyd is a good thing for them right now because now they see. Yep. Because if it's anything else, they're gonna say, I don't care about that. I'm not voting for it. But this right here shows them, now this is what we need to show them and show them why we need to vote. Why you need to change the laws. Why you need to have certain people in office. They need to see relevance. Right. That's it. That they just need to see why does it relate to their care right here.
So we just ran out of time. Yeah. So we're an hour and a half in, so we went pretty deep. But look, I appreciate all you guys for being here. So as we close out, I want you guys to give just a quick closing statement for our viewers. I want to start with you, Destiny. Just give us a quick positive closing statement as to what you thought about not really what you thought about the show, because that's make me bragging and being narcissistic. But what do you think about the topics that we discussed, Destiny?
Eye-opening, and also I'm still learning about it. I still have some questions when it comes to I don't want to say the importance of voting, because obviously it is important because our ancestors fought for the right to vote, have the right to vote whether they want to or not. Right. But I think there's some good stuff, definitely. I would like to come back if y'all still want to talk about, like police and things like that. But I think it was definitely good, thought-provoking stuff for people to take and have their own conversations going forward. Enjoyed it.
Okay. Shawnee.
Yeah.
Give us some closing remarks.
My closing remarks is register to vote. And, man, just pray over your family members. When they leave the house, tell them you love them. And turn your damn camera on because the body cams don't seem to work properly. With this, I do hope that you choose to bring back a show that doesn't just educate people about voting from the most highest grades of education, but you dummy it down for those people, them 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds that are heavy on the ballot of who's going to win or not. And not only from Trump and Biden, but everybody from the Senate to the judge to the whatever. We, and including me, we got to do better because we have platforms. So we got to educate these people. And man, I'm gonna tell y'all now, it's about to be a war. Tupac told us. Tupac told us. So y'all tell your people you love them when they leave. Hey, catch me on Shawnee B Entertainment YouTube. Holla.
and KMWi-Media whenever you're ready. So, okay.
Didn't nobody tell you to plug that on the back end of my stuff?
Aya, positive closing remarks.
I appreciate the opportunity. This is a great conversation. Continue to protest. We need it. It's moving some laws.
It is.
You know,
It's bringing awareness to some things too.
absolutely. And people are now open for new ideas.
At least they're talking. That's the good thing.
They're listening.
Oh, yeah.
That's the good.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
so moving forward, we're gonna try to make sure everybody understands up till November.
Okay. And beyond. Great. Closing positive remarks.
Yeah, you guys are tremendous. Destiny, you keep doing what you're doing, and like I need a thousand more yous in my life, and maybe we can push the needle a little bit quicker. I think you guys are extremely smart, and I hear the passion. I think we're all in the same spot. We're all looking for the same stuff. We're just trying to find the right way to get it. And I'm from the school of don't fix the blame, fix the problem. If we keep pointing at the action, we miss directing the consequence. So, and I have a complete understanding that it won't be really changed until I leave this earth. Nothing happens overnight. It took 400 years to get to this point. What makes us think it's going to take 400 minutes to get out of it? It's like exercise. It took you 3 years to gain 35 pounds. You're not going to lose it in 3 weeks.
No, I gained mine in 2 weeks.
Well, you might lose it in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Life is reciprocal, so let's make sure we do it the right way.
Okay, so with that being said, my closing remarks, this was a great conversation. It looks like we got at least 2 or 3 different generations of people on this call today, which I think is good. We're going to try to sustain this on a weekly basis. We got to get on the vote. We got to do our research, and we got to be able to communicate with those who don't understand what it means to vote, and help them with choosing the right candidates to vote for without influencing their decision. Stay positive. There are some changes coming within the laws for policing and how do we police and how police are being held accountable. We just got to work with it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we got to step on the accelerator with those people who are making decisions so they can accelerate the process a little bit. But we got to keep them focused as well, and that's our responsibility. So stay tuned for next week. We'll have another show at 3 p.m. On Sunday. Don't have the topics yet, but just stay tuned and we'll put some information out there. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Peace.